Han Yuri stood in the center of the great chamber, her hands bound behind her back, her face calm even as thousands of eyes watched her. The chamber was not built for humans. It was too wide, too tall, and too cold. The walls curved upward like the inside of a hollow planet, glowing with soft white light that never warmed the skin. This was the heart of the United Systems Assembly, where decisions were made that shaped the fate of entire worlds. Humanity had been brought here not as an equal, but as a warning. High above Yuri, the members of the Galactic Council sat in a vast arc of floating platforms. They did not look at her as a person. They looked at her as an idea, a problem, a threat that needed to be erased. Many of them had lived for centuries. Some had ruled star systems longer than human history itself. To them, humans were new, loud, and dangerous. Park Jisoo stood behind the human delegation barrier, his jaw tight. He had argued for days, using logic, law, and treaties. None of it mattered. The trial had ended before it began. This was not justice. It was theater. The council speaker's voice echoed across the chamber, smooth and cold. Humanity has demonstrated a repeated pattern of instability, the speaker said. You survive conflicts that destroy others. You adapt too quickly. You refuse guidance. These traits endanger galactic balance. Jisoo clenched his fists. Survival was now a crime. On another platform, Liara watched the energy readings scroll across her tablet. The chamber was armed. Every surface, every light panel, every invisible field could become a weapon. The council claimed this was a hearing, but they had prepared for an execution. Yuri felt it too. She had grown up on Earth, under heavy skies and crowded cities. She knew pressure. She knew when something was about to break. The air itself felt tight, like the moment before a storm. The speaker continued. To preserve stability, the Assembly has reached a unanimous decision. A pause followed. It was deliberate. It was meant to hurt. The human species will be placed under permanent restriction. Effective immediately, Earth will lose independent authority. A low murmur spread through the chamber, and as a symbol of compliance, the speaker said, one human life will be forfeit. Park Jisoo stepped forward. This violates every agreement. Silence, the speaker said. All sound cut off around Jisoo's platform. His voice vanished, trapped behind an invisible barrier. The speaker turned its attention back to Yuri. Han Yuri, age 19, civilian, no combat record. You are selected. Yuri did not move. She had known this was possible. Humans had learned long ago that power often chose the innocent first. Fear worked better that way. Kang Do-yeon stood near the security line, his posture rigid. His orders were clear. Do nothing unless commanded. Every instinct in his body screamed to act. Every muscle was ready. But he stayed still. Humans survived because they waited for the right moment. The speaker raised a glowing symbol in the air. This execution will be broadcast across all member systems. Let it be known that defiance ends here. Yuri lifted her eyes. For the first time, she spoke. You are afraid, she said. The chamber went quiet. The speaker paused. Explain. You say humans are unstable, Yuri continued, her voice steady. But you watched us fight wars that should have ended us. You watched our planet burn, freeze, flood, and still we lived. You are not protecting balance. You are scared of what survives without permission. Some council members shifted. Others turned away. Liara felt a chill. Yuri was not pleading. She was observing. The speaker's tone hardened. You mistake mercy for fear. No, Yuri said softly. I mistake your rules for weakness. The execution platform beneath Yuri's feet lit up. Energy gathered in thin lines around her ankles and wrists. The system was ancient, powerful, and designed to end life instantly. Park Jisoo slammed his hand against the barrier. even though he knew it was useless. "Stop this!" The speaker ignored him. "In your final moments," the speaker said, "you may deliver a message to your species." Yuri closed her eyes. She thought of Earth, of narrow streets and loud markets, of rain on broken pavement, of people who argued, failed, rebuilt, and kept going. Humans were not united by peace. They were united by refusal to end. She opened her eyes. "Humans do not kneel," she said. The speaker gave the signal. Energy surged at that exact moment. Far beyond the chamber, human systems shifted. Choi Mira stood on the bridge of a silent fleet, watching signals come alive one by one. These ships had waited for years, hidden, dismissed as obsolete by those who never bothered to look closely. They chose the wrong symbol. Myra said back in the chamber. The execution sequence began its final count. Yuri breathed in, and the galaxy prepared to learn what humanity truly meant. The chamber did not move, but everything inside it felt tense like a held breath. The execution platform glowed brighter beneath Han Yuri's feet. Thin lines of light wrapped around her wrists and ankles, locking her in place. The system had already decided she was dead. It was only waiting for permission to finish. Yuri stood still. Her heart beat slow and steady. Fear was there, but it did not control her. She had learned long ago that fear could sharpen the mind if you did not let it rule you. Across the chamber, Part Jisoo felt helpless rage burn in his chest. The barrier around him hummed softly, strong enough to stop weapons and words alike. He looked at Yuri and forced himself to stay calm. Panic would help no one. Humans survived by thinking when others froze. The central galactic judge descended from above, carried by a silent lift of light. Unlike the speaker, the judge was closer now, close enough for everyone to see. Its form was tall and thin, wrapped in dark robes marked with symbols of authority. Its eyes glowed pale blue, cold and distant. "Han Yuri," the judge said, its voice amplified and flat. "You have been found guilty by existence alone." Yuri met its gaze. "The execution will proceed," the judge continued. "Your death will serve as correction. Humanity will learn restraint." Lee Arrow watched the energy levels spike. The execution system was moving into final phase. Once it reached full power, even emergency shutdown codes would not stop it. That was not an accident. It was designed that way. Ara's fingers tightened around her tablet. She remembered her simulations, the warnings she had given. Humans had been pushed into harsher environments than most species. Earth had never been gentle. Evolution there did not reward weakness or patience alone. It rewarded reaction. Kang Doyan shifted his weight slightly, just enough to test the ground beneath his boots. Security drones floated nearby, their sensors fixed on every human. Any sudden movement would be punished instantly. Doyan kept his face blank. Stillness was also a weapon. The judge raised one long hand. Symbols appeared in the air, rotating slowly. "Before termination," the judge said, "the subject may speak." Yuri did not answer right away. She looked around the chamber. She saw fear hidden behind confidence. She saw power built on old victories. She saw beings who had never faced extinction and could not imagine surviving it. "You call this order," Yuri said at last. "But you never asked why humans fight so hard to live." The judge tilted its head slightly. "Your history is known. Violence, division, endless conflict." "Yes," Yuri said. "And still we are here." A faint ripple moved through the council platforms. Some members leaned closer. Others looked away. "You think we enjoy struggle," Yuri went on. "But struggle made us. On Earth, nothing was free. Air could poison us. Water could drown us. The ground could shake and kill us without warning. We learned fast or we died." The judge's voice remained calm. That is not justification. It is explanation, Yuri replied. The execution platform pulsed. A low hum filled the chamber, deep enough to be felt in the bones. Park Jisoo swallowed. Time was running out. The judge spread its hands. Humanity refuses guidance. You resist control. That makes you dangerous. Yuri's lips curved into the smallest smile. No, she said. It makes us alive. The judge's eyes narrowed. End this. The hum grew louder. At the edge of the chamber, Choi Mira watched through a secure feed. Her fleet remained hidden, engines cold, weapons silent. Every officer on every ship waited for one signal. They trusted timing more than strength. Hold, Myra said quietly. Back in the chamber, Liara noticed something strange. The execution system was drawing more power than expected. It was compensating, adjusting, trying to predict resistance that should not exist. Humans had a way of confusing systems, built on certainty. Yuri felt the energy pressing against her skin. The light burned, but she did not scream. Pain was familiar. Pain meant she was still alive. She took a slow breath. You believe law is stronger than instinct, she said. On Earth, instinct kept us alive when laws failed. The judge stepped closer. You are delaying the inevitable. Yuri looked straight at it. So, are you, she said. The judge's hand moved. The execution sequence reached its final mark. For a single heartbeat. Everything aligned. Systems locked. Timers sensed. The chamber believed the future was fixed. That was when Yuri moved. Her wrist twisted just enough to shift the pressure point beneath the energy bind. A human engineer had once called it impossible. That engineer had been wrong. Humans built things assuming failure. That was why they survived. The light around her right hand flickered. Liara's eyes widened. Kang. Diane tensed. The judge did not notice until it was too late. A small, hidden device slid into Yuri's palm, released by skin contact and precise timing. It was no larger than a coin human-made, designed for one purpose only. Yuri stepped forward as the execution field collapsed around her. The judge raised its hand in surprise. Yuri did not hesitate. She struck. The device activated instantly, releasing a focused burst of force that ignored shields and authority alike. The energy hit the judge's core before its systems could react. There was no scream. The central, galactic judge fell apart in silence, its form collapsing into ash and fading light. For a moment, no one moved. Then the chamber erupted. Alarms screamed. Council members shouted. Security drones spun wildly, confused by missing commands. The symbol of galactic law was gone, erased in less than a second. Park Jisoo stared in shock. Era let out a breath she did not know she was holding. Kang Do-yeon moved. This time, no order stopped him. And across the galaxy, human fleets began to wake. The chamber shook as alarms echoed from every wall. Lights flashed from white to red, then to deep orange. The air filled with sharp warning sounds that overlapped and clashed. The United Systems Assembly had never lost control like this before. Order had always been their weapon. Now it was gone. Han Yuri stood where the judge had fallen. Ash drifted slowly around her boots. The execution platform was dark and broken, its systems burned out by sudden failure. Yuri felt heat on her skin, but she stayed focused. This was the moment humans prepared for, even when they hoped it would never come. Security drones rushed toward her, their weapons charging. Kang Do-yeon was already moving. He broke from his position with sudden speed, faster than the drones expected. He grabbed one from the air, twisted, and slammed it into the ground. Sparks flew as it shut down. Human security breach. A cold voice announced. Park. Jisoo finally felt the barrier around him drop. He did not hesitate. He ran toward Yuri, his mind racing through plans that had never been meant to activate so soon. "Yuri, move!" he shouted Dot. She was already moving. Liara's fingers flew across her tablet. The chamber systems were confused, trying to follow laws that no longer applied. The judge had been the core authority. Without it, command chains collapsed. They built everything on one voice, Era muttered. That was their mistake. On the far platforms, council members shouted in fear and anger. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for evacuation. None of them agreed. They had ruled for too long without real threat. Yuri reached Jisu's side. For a brief second, their eyes met. No words were needed. Above them, a hidden hatch in the ceiling opened. A human transport pod dropped fast, silent, and precise. Its surface absorbed light, making it almost invisible until it was already there. The door slid open. "Now," Tang Dian said. Yuri and Jisu jumped inside. Dian followed, firing one clean shot that disabled the last drone in their path. The pod door sealed as the chamber erupted behind them. The pod shot upward, cutting through layers of security fields that failed to respond in time. Human code did not ask for permission. It took opportunity. Inside the pod, Yuri finally allowed herself to breathe deeply. Her hands trembled, but she kept them steady. "You did it," Jisu said quietly. "No," Yuri replied. "We did." Far away, Choi Myra watched the signal confirm extraction. "All fleets," she said calmly. Phase 2. Across nearby systems, human ships powered up. They did not rush forward in chaos. They moved with careful intent, taking control of key routes, communication hubs, and defense platforms. They did not fire first Dot. They waited Dot back in the assembly. The remaining council tried to regain control. Emergency leaders argued over who had authority now. The systems demanded commands that no one could give. "This is an act of war," one council member shouted. "No," another replied. "This is our failure." Security forces attempted to lock down the station, but human interference slowed every response. Liara smiled grimly as she watched systems lag and misfire. They never planned for humans inside the code. She said, "The transport pod docked with a larger human ship hidden in shadow." Yuri stepped out on a solid ground, surrounded by human crew members who looked at her with awe and respect. She was not a hero to them. She was proof. Kang, Diane reported in quickly. Judge eliminated. Council destabilized. No civilian casualties. Choi Myra nodded. Good. Keep it that way. Yuri walked to the observation window. Beyond it, the assembly station hung silent and uncertain. For the first time, it looked small. They thought killing one human would control us. Yuri said. They still think in symbols, Myra replied. We think in survival. A message request came through from the assembly. They wanted to speak. They wanted to negotiate. Park Jisu looked at Yuri. Your call. Yuri considered it. She felt fear, anger, and something else. Clarity. Open the channel, she said. The council's image appeared, fractured and unstable. Their voices overlapped until one finally spoke. You have committed an unforgivable act, the council said. You killed the judge. Yuri leaned forward. No, she said simply. You tried to kill humanity. I stopped you. Silence followed. You have proven our point, the council replied. You are dangerous. Yuri's voice remained calm. So is fire. So is water. So is change. You feared us because you could not control us. The council threatened sanctions, isolation, force. Yuri listened without interruption. When they finished, she spoke again. You built a galaxy that survives only when nothing changes, she said. That galaxy is already dying. The channel cut. Choi Myra turned to her officers. Hold positions. No attacks. Let them think. Humans had learned that patience could be sharper than weapons. Within hours, news spread across the galaxy. The judge was dead. A human girl had done it. The execution had failed. The council had been exposed. Worlds that had feared humans began to question the council instead. On Earth, people watched the broadcast in silence, then in anger, then in pride. Humanity had not begged. Humanity had not broken. Yuri sat alone for a moment, staring at her hands. She had taken a life. She knew that weight would stay with her forever. But she also knew something else. Humanity was no longer asking to exist. It was deciding. The silence after the council cut the channel felt heavier than noise. The human command ship drifted in controlled orbit, its engines steady and quiet. Outside the wide observation window, distant stars burned without care for politics or power. Han Yuri stood with her arms folded, watching the assembly station. It no longer looked like the center of the galaxy. It looked like a relic that had cracked under its own weight. Choi Myra turned from the command table. They are arguing, she said. Our intercepts show no clear command. They cannot agree on a response. Park Jisoo nodded. They ruled through certainty. Now they have none? Across the galaxy, confusion spread faster than fear. Systems that had obeyed the United Systems Assembly for centuries began to hesitate. Trade routes slowed. Military patrols stopped asking for permission. The Council had always claimed it acted for everyone. Now everyone was watching it fail. Liara worked quietly at her station, sorting through data streams. They are trying to rewrite the story, she said. They want to label Yuri as a terrorist. But the execution order is already public. Jisoo allowed himself a thin smile. They underestimated transparency. Humans had learned long ago that truth, once released, was difficult to control. On the assembly station, emergency leaders struggled to restore order. Without the judge, every command required debate. Every decision slowed into argument. Their systems had been built to enforce, not adapt. This is humanity's fault. One council member shouted. No, another replied. This is what happens when power forgets fear. Security fleets were mobilized, then stopped, then redirected. Human ships remained still, watching, waiting. They did not advance. They did not threaten. Their presence alone was enough. Choi Myra studied the tactical map. They expect aggression, she said. So we give them none. Kang Doyoung crossed his arms. That makes them nervous. Good, Myra replied. Yuri finally spoke. They think control keeps peace. But control only works when everyone is afraid. Myra looked at her. And now? Now, they are afraid of the wrong thing, Yuri said. A new message request came in. Not from the council this time, but from several independent systems. Worlds that had once voted with the assembly were reaching out quietly, asking questions. Asking if humans plan to rule. Park Jisoo answered them carefully. We are not here to replace one council with another, he said. We are here to make sure no species stands alone before an execution chamber. The message spread on Earth. Streets filled with people watching the sky. Screens glowing with distant stars and unfamiliar names. There was fear, yes, but also something stronger. Pride. Humanity had not struck first. Humanity had survived being judged unworthy. Yuri watched a live feed from Earth for a moment. She saw faces like her own. Ordinary people who would never know her name, but would live because of what happened. The weight in her chest eased slightly. The assembly made its move soon after. They announced sanctions. Human trade was restricted. Access to shared networks was cut. Travel corridors were closed. Liara shook her head as the data came in. They are isolating themselves, she said. Human infrastructure does not depend on theirs anymore. That was another mistake. For years, humans have been treated as junior partners. They had built their own systems quietly, redundantly, and independently. It had not been rebellion. It had been preparation. Within hours, human networks rerouted. Trade adjusted. Communications held. The galaxy noticed. Council influence weakened as Vosboe. Other systems realized they had options. Some followed humanity's example. Others simply stopped listening. On the assembly station, fear turned inward. Accusations flew. Blame spread. The image of the judge's collapse replayed again and again in private chambers. They killed our symbol. One council member whispered, "No." Another answered, "We destroyed it ourselves." Choi Myra received a final message request from the council. "This is it," Jisoo said quietly. Yuri nodded. "Open it." The council appeared again, smaller now, their confidence stripped away. Their voices were calmer, but the fear was clear. "We propose negotiations," the council said. "Humanity must withdraw its fleets. In return, we will reconsider Earth's status." Yuri stepped forward. "You do not reconsider existence," she said. "You recognize it." The council bristled. "You overstep." Yuri's gaze did not waver. "You overreached first." Silence followed. Park Jisoo spoke next. "The assembly will dissolve its execution authority. No species will face judgment without representation." The council hesitated. "You have no right to demand this," one voice said. Choi Myra leaned forward. "We have the right of survival." The channel cut again. This time, the silence felt different. Hours passed. Then days. Slowly the galaxy shifted. Several systems publicly withdrew support from the assembly. Others demanded reform. Some threatened to leave entirely. The council's greatest weapon had never been fleets. It had been belief. And belief was breaking. Yuri sat alone in the observation room once more. The stars looked the same as they always had. Indifferent. Endless. She thought about the judge. About the moment everything changed. She did not feel triumph. She felt resolve. Humanity would not become what it had faced. That promise mattered. Behind her, Choi Myra entered quietly. "They are calling an emergency vote," she said, "to dissolve the current council structure." Yuri closed her eyes for a moment. "Good," she said. The galaxy was not at peace, but it was no longer blind. The vote happened without ceremony. There were no grand speeches, no banners, no proud announcements. The United Systems Assembly released a simple message across the galaxy. The council, as it had existed, was dissolved. Its authority to judge, sentence, and execute was revoked. For centuries, the galaxy had believed the council was eternal. Now it ended with quiet words on a shared network. Han Yuri stood on the bridge of the human command ship as the message spread. She felt no joy, only a deep sense of release, like a long-held breath finally let go. Choi Myra read the confirmation twice to be sure. "It's done," she said. "They voted themselves out." Park Jisoo closed his eyes for a moment. He had spent his life learning the language of power, the slow grind of negotiations. He had never expected it to end this way. They were afraid of war, he said. But they were more afraid of being exposed. Across the galaxy, reactions came fast. Some systems celebrated openly. Others remained silent, watching carefully. Many worlds had lived under the shadow of judgment for generations. That shadow was gone. Human fleets received new orders. Stand down. They did so immediately. Weapons powered off. Defensive lines relaxed. Ships pulled back from strategic points, but did not vanish. Humanity did not disappear. It simply stopped advancing. That choice spoke louder than force. On Earth, People gathered in public squares and private homes. Screens showed unfamiliar stars and distant stations. When the announcement reached them, there was cheering, crying, and long silence. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. It had survived it. Yuri requested a final broadcast. The new Provisional Assembly hesitated, then agreed. They could not afford another mistake. Yuri stood alone in a quiet room, a simple background behind her. No symbols of power, no weapons, just a human face. Her image spread across systems, stations, and worlds. "My name is Han Yuri," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "I was chosen to die so my species would obey." She paused, letting the truth settle. "That failed," she continued. "Not because humans are violent, not because we are superior. It failed because we refused to disappear quietly." She spoke simply. Of Earth, of hardship, of learning to live under constant danger. "We do not seek to rule," Yuri said. "We seek to stand. We will defend ourselves. We will defend others when the law fails them. And we will remember what happens when fear is allowed to judge." The broadcast ended. There was no applause. There was understanding. Negotiations began soon after. New rules were drafted. No single authority would hold absolute judgment again. Every species would have representation. No executions without consensus. No secret trials. Humans took their place at the table, not as masters, but as equals. Park Jisu worked day and night, helping shape the framework. He argued fiercely, but fairly. For once, his words were heard. Liera helped design transparent systems, ones that could not hide decisions in silence. "If power exists," she said, "it must be seen." Kang Doyan returned to Earth quietly. He did not seek recognition. He trained others instead, teaching restraint as much as strength. Choi Myra remained in command, guiding human forces back into defensive roles. "We never wanted empire," she told her officers. "Only safety." Yuri declined every title offered to her. She returned to Earth on a civilian transport, unnoticed by most. The planet greeted her with familiar noise and imperfect beauty. Rain fell on cracked streets. Life continued. She walked through a crowded market, blending in. No one bowed. No one pointed. That was exactly how she wanted it. At night, she stood on a rooftop and looked up at the stars. They seemed closer now. Not friendly, not hostile, just present. She thought of the judge again. Of the moment when fear tried to decide her fate. Humanity would always carry that lesson. Far above. The new assembly held its first official session. It was slower, messier. Arguments filled the air. But no one was silent out of fear. That mattered. A record was archived that day, marked simply, "The execution order against humanity is void." Across the galaxy, the story spread. Not as a legend of conquest, but as a warning. Do not mistake survival for weakness. Do not mistake patience for submission. And never assume a species that endures everything will accept extinction quietly. Han Yuri closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of Earth below. Humanity was still here, and this time, the galaxy knew it. Time passed, but it did not slow. The galaxy adjusted the way living things always did, not with sudden peace, but with careful steps. Trade routes reopened under new rules. Councils formed and reformed. Arguments replaced orders. It was louder, slower, and safer. On Earth, Han Yuri tried to live a quiet life. She woke early, worked simple jobs, and walked familiar streets. People argued over small things. Children played. Trains ran late. None of it knew her name, and that was fine. But the galaxy did not forget so easily. Messages came, at first polite, then urgent. Requests for advice. Invitations to speak. Warnings about unrest at the edges of known space. Yuri ignored most of them. She was not a leader. She had never wanted to be. Still, some things could not be ignored. Park. Jisoo stood in a small office overlooking a rebuilt assembly hall. The walls were plain now. No grand symbols. Just screens and long tables. They are testing us, he said to Liara. Era nodded as she reviewed reports. Power never disappears. It looks for new shapes. Several distant systems had begun to copy the old council's methods. Quiet arrests. Forced compliance. Local executions hidden behind words like stability and efficiency. The fear is coming back, Jisoo said. Fear never left, Era replied. It only waited. Choi Mira received similar reports from the military side. Human fleets remained defensive, that they were stretched thin helping patrol neutral zones. Humanity had gained respect, but also responsibility. They are watching how we respond, Myra said. If we overreact, we become what they feared. If we do nothing, we prove them right. The message reached Yuri late one night. It was short. A civilian transport had been seized near an outer system. The passengers were not human, but they had invoked humanity's name when threatened. Yuri sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the screen. They are using us, she whispered. But she also understood something else. Humanity had become a symbol whether it wanted to or not. Yuri contacted Jisoo for the first time in months. He answered immediately. I was hoping you would call, he said. She did not smile. I'm not coming back to lead. I know, Jisoo said. But they need to see you. The assembly convened again, smaller and more honest than before. Representatives argued openly, sometimes loudly. No one feared disappearing for speaking. Yuri stood at the back this time, not on a platform. The situation was explained. A regional authority had seized power, claiming the new rules were weak. They believed fear worked faster. They are wrong, one delegate sighed. They are effective, another replied. Yuri stepped forward. You are both right, she said. The room quieted. Fear works fast, she continued. That is why it is tempting. But it always turns inward. It eats the hand that holds it. Some nodded. Others looked unsure. Yuri did not raise her voice. You do not need me to threaten them. You need proof that fear fails. Choi Myra understood immediately. A rescue, she said. A witness, Yuri corrected. The plan was careful and limited. No invasion. No punishment. Just presence. A small human task group moved toward the seized transport. They announced themselves openly. They requested dialogue. They waited. The regional authority refused. Kan Do-eun led the boarding team. His movements were calm and precise. He disabled weapons WI. Out firing when possible. When force was needed, it was clean and controlled. The passengers were freed. No executions. No speeches. Just action. The authorities' leaders were detained and handed over to a neutral court formed under the new assembly rules. Evidence was shared openly. The trial was public, across the galaxy. People watched. They saw restraint. They saw accountability. They saw that fear did not decide the outcome. Yuri watched the broadcast from Earth, standing on the same rooftop as before. She felt tired, but steady. This is how it starts, she said softly. Not conquest, not domination. Responsibility. Weeks later, a child on a distant world asked a simple question during a public forum. Why do humans care? The answer spread across networks. Because they remember being alone. Humanity did not become the galaxy's ruler. It became its reminder. Reminder that survival does not excuse cruelty. That strength does not require silence. That even after an execution order, A species can choose restraint over revenge. Yuri returned to her life again. The messages slowed. The galaxy learned to stand on its own feet, slowly, imperfectly at night. Yuri still looked at the stars. They were not kinder, but they were watching. And for the first time, humanity was not afraid of that. The warning arrived without drama. No alarms. No explosions. Just a quiet signal that did not belong to anyone in the new assembly. Liara was the first to notice it. She sat alone in a monitoring room, watching normal traffic flow across the network. Then one line of data refused to fit. It did not respond to pings. It did not follow known rules. It simply existed, moving slowly from system to system, like a shadow drifting across light. She leaned closer to the screen. "That's not right," she whispered. The signal did not announce itself. It erased small things. A relay went dark. A sensor vanished. Not destroyed. Gone. Era called Park Jisu immediately. "We have a blind spot growing," she said. "And it's moving." Within hours, reports followed. A research station failed to respond. A cargo ship never arrived. No debris, no distress call, just absence. Fear stirred again, soft but sharp. Choi Myra reviewed the data with her officers. "This is not a government," she said. "It doesn't make demands." "That's worse," Tandoyan replied. Human fleets shifted quietly. Defensive lines adjusted. Observation increased. No public announcement was made. Panic would only help the unknown. Han Yuri was back on Earth when Jisu contacted her. "This one isn't about politics," he said. "We don't know what it wants." Yuri looked at the night sky through her window. "Do we know what it does?" Jisu hesitated. "It removes things." That was enough. The assembly convened an emergency session. Representatives spoke over one another. Old fear pushing through new rules. "We should seal borders," one said. "We should strike first," said another. Yuri listened from the side, her expression calm. "You cannot threaten something that does not listen," she said. When the noise slowed, the room fell quiet. "This is not like us," she continued. "It does not rule. It does not judge. It consumes space where things used to be." Liara displayed a projection. The blind zone expanded slowly, evenly. "It behaves like a process," Era said. "Not an enemy. A function." Fear deepened. "Then we can't negotiate," someone said. "No," Yuri agreed. "But we can choose how we face it." Human exploration ships were sent first, unmanned, layered with redundant systems. They approached the edge of the blind zone carefully. The feeds cut out one by one. But before they vanished, they sent something back. Data, patterns, era worked for days without sleep. "It's not attacking," she said at last. "It's correcting." "Correcting what?" Jisu asked. Era swallowed. "Complexity." The phenomenon erased dense systems first. Heavy traffic. Advanced structures. Places where life had layered too deeply. "It simplifies," Era said. "Like a natural reset." The room felt cold. "Then Earth," someone began, "is not the first target," Era finished. "But one day, it could be." The assembly looked to Yuri. She did not feel fear. She felt recognition. "Earth survived resets," she said. "Ice, fire, extinction, over and over." She turned to Myra. "Can we slow it?" Mira shook her head. "We can't fight it." "Then we don't," Yuri said. "We adapt." A plan formed, not from power, but from memory. Human systems began to change. Traffic spread out. Structures decentralized. Networks loosened. Other species watched, confused, then curious. Humanity did not build walls. It learned to flow. As weeks passed, the blind zone reached a human outpost. The station did not resist. It powered down, released its people, and went dark. The zone passed over it. Nothing vanished. Across the galaxy. The lesson, spread. Survival was not about holding ground, that it was about knowing when to move. The unknown process continued its path. Slower now, less destructive. Complexity adjusted around it instead of pushing against it. Yuri stood once more under the open sky. This is what they never understood, she said softly. We don't win by standing. Still, the stars remained indifferent, but humanity was ready, not to rule, not to destroy. But to endure again. The blind zone. Slow. That was the first sign something had changed. Lee. Aaron noticed it during a routine check. The expansion curve no longer followed its old path. It bent slightly, like water moving around a stone. It's reacting, she said quietly. Park Jisoo leaned over her shoulder. To what? Era zoomed out the display. Human systems showed as thin, spread-out lines instead of dense knots. Other systems that copied the human method showed the same pattern. To absence, Era said. Or maybe to restraint. The phenomenon did not stop, but it no longer erased. It passed near stations without touching them. It skimmed trade lanes and left them intact. Where life thinned itself, the blind zone thinned too. For the first time, the galaxy felt something other than fear. Curiosity. Choi Myra ordered human ships to maintain distance but keep sensors open. No weapons, she reminded them. Observation only. Kang Do-yun frowned. Feels strange not preparing for a fight. Myra nodded. That may be the point. Han Yuri joined the assembly again, not as a symbol, but as a voice many trusted. She listened as scientists, diplomats, and commanders spoke. It might be alive, one said. It might be a natural force, said another. It might not notice us all, someone added. Yuri waited until the room quieted. We keep assuming. It thinks like us, she said. It may not think at all. Lee Era stepped forward. There is one more thing, she said. The data it erased, some of it came back. The room stilled, not the objects, Ara clarified. The information, echoes, patterns left behind. She displayed faint signals, repeating shapes that mirrored the blind zone's movement. It's not random, Ara said. It records. Jisoo felt a chill. Then it learns. Or remembers, Yuri said. A decision formed slowly. Carefully. Not a message, not a weapon, a demonstration. Humanity would change itself again. Openly this time. Human stations near the blind zone powered down advanced systems. Lights dimmed. Noise dropped. Activity slowed. The stations did not hide. They waited. The blind zone approached one of them, close enough to touch. Sensors failed. Visual feeds blurred. Then it stopped. It hovered, silent and vast. Like an invisible tide held in place. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Across the galaxy, systems watched in disbelief. It's responding, someone whispered. Yuri closed her eyes. She felt the same pressure she had felt in the execution chamber long ago. Not danger, judgment. But this judgment felt different. Not cruel, not afraid, just vast. Lee Era broke the silence. It's reflecting us, she said. When we reduce complexity, it reduces effect. When we stop forcing space, it stops correcting. Then this is communication, Jisoo said. Not with words, Yuri replied. With behavior. A simple truth spread. Blind zone was not an enemy. It was a boundary. It existed to prevent systems from growing so dense they collapsed into chaos. Humanity had survived because Earth had always pushed back against excess. Cities broke and rebuilt. Systems failed and were replaced. Nothing stayed perfect. long enough to become fragile. Other species had built permanents. The blind zone corrected. Permanents. Choi Myra received reports from distant worlds. Systems that copied human decentralization were untouched. Those that clung to rigid control suffered losses. "This thing doesn't hate us," Myra said. "It doesn't even see us. It sees patterns," Era said. The assembly voted quickly this time. A shared guideline was released. Spread. Adapt. Do not overbuild. Do not fear change. The galaxy shifted again, not in panic but in motion. Trade rebalanced. Cities thinned. Authority softened. The blind zone continued its slow path, now barely leaving marks behind. Weeks later, it began to fade. Not disappear. Withdraw. Like a tide returning to a deeper sea. Yuri stood on Earth, barefoot on cool concrete, feeling the city breathe beneath her feet. "We passed," she said softly. Jisoo, standing nearby, nodded. "Or we learned." The stars above seemed unchanged, but the space between them felt different. Not empty. Balanced. Humanity did not defeat the unknown. It understood it. And the galaxy would remember that lesson longer than any execution order. Far away, where no sensors could reach, the blind zone contracted fully, leaving behind a faint pattern, like a scar in space. Not a warning, a record. The universe had noticed humanity and had decided to let it continue. The galaxy did not. Celebrate. That was how Han Yuri knew the change was real. There were no parades in space, no loud announcements, no proud claims of victory. Life simply continued, a little differently than before. Systems adjusted their routes. Cities spread out instead of growing taller. Governments argued more, but listened longer. The universe had not been conquered. It had been understood. Just enough. On Earth, seasons passed. Rain fell. Heat rose from the streets. People complained about work, about prices, about the future. None of them mentioned blind zones or galactic councils in daily life. That, too, was a sign of success. Yuri worked at a small repair center near a transit hub. She fixed broken panels, replaced worn parts, and drank bad coffee during long shifts. Her hands stayed busy. Her mind stayed quiet. Sometimes she was recognized. Not often. A glance held a second too long. A pause before a question. A whispered name. She always nodded politely and returned to her work. Park. Jisoo visited Earth less often now. The new assembly functioned, imperfect but alive. His hair showed more gray. His voice carried more patience. "They're still arguing," he told Yuri during one visit. "That's good." Yuri smiled faintly. "It means no one is afraid to speak." Across the galaxy, the story of the execution order changed shape. Some told it as a warning, others as a lesson. A few tried to turn it into a myth. Human records stayed plain. Dates, facts, decisions. No gods. No chosen ones. Lee Era taught now. She explained systems, not as tools of control, but as living structures that needed room to fail and recover. Perfection breaks, she told her students. Balance bends. Choi Myra stepped down from command after many years. She left behind fleets that knew how to wait as well as fight. The hardest order, she said in her final address, is not to fire. Kang Deun retired quietly. He trained security teams across several worlds, focusing less on weapons and more on judgment. Strength is knowing when to stop. He said. The galaxy listened. Not always, but more often than before. Years later, a small world near the edge of known space faced collapse. Its leaders argued until the last moment, each trying to hold power tighter as resources failed. They asked for help too late. Human ships arrived anyway, not to rule, not to punish. To move people. To spread them out. To save what could still live. The planet was abandoned, not destroyed. Its surface healed slowly. Life returned in simpler forms. The record marked it as a success, because survival had many shapes. One night, Yuri stood again on her rooftop, older now, lines at the corners of her eyes. The city lights stretched below her like a calm sea dot. She thought about the chamber, about the judge, about the moment. Everything narrowed to one breath. She did not regret it. She understood. Fear had tried to end a story. Adaptation had continued it. A message arrived on her personal device. Rooted through layers of old human code. It was simple. A distant system had detected a pattern similar to the blind zone. Far weaker, barely forming. Yuri closed the message without replying. The galaxy knew what to do. Now, it would spread. It would adjust. It would endure. That knowledge did not belong to her alone anymore. She lay back and watched the sky. Stars drifted slowly, indifferent as ever. That was fine. Humanity did not need approval. It only needed time. Far beyond sight. The faint scars left by the blind zone faded further, blending into the fabric of space. No warning followed. No return came. The universe moved on. So did humanity. Not as rulers, not as victims, but as a species that had once faced an execution. Order and answered with survival. And that was enough.